Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to On Your Mental. This is the podcast where we share candid, open, and sometimes vulnerable conversations between men, talking about things that are on our minds. Today's episode is going to be the last one for the first season. It's not a conversation, it's just me. I'm on a fucking mountain. And today I'm going to be talking about perspective that I got from news that my mom had recently heard, which I'll share in a minute. It's not like crazy serious or anything, but it just made me reflect on experience that I've had with her and made me think about the relationship that I have with my mom, and I'm very thankful for it. So I think that relationship is really important in a man's life. Yeah, so figured I'll talk about it. Anyways, I hope you all enjoy the view while we're here too. I have some like clips from the walk up, and someone was fucking paragliding up here. Crazy shit. It's a good day. But yeah, enjoy the episode. Peace. Alright, so first off, I love my mom. The other day my mom had heard that she's getting a hip replacement in a year, and my mom's been like really active with walking for a while now, especially over the last couple of years since she's been retired. She and I have had a couple really good trips that we've gotten to go on together. We went on, I mean, she did like the full version of this, but she went on this thing called the Camino de Santiago, which is this, historically it was a pilgrimage, and it's a walk in Spain, and you can go like, I want to say you can go over 1,000 kilometers, but I believe she did either 500 or 800 kilometers distance, walking like 25 kilometers a day. She was gone for a month, but I joined for the last 100 kilometers of that trip. And I mean, it was cool to be able to do that. It was just an awesome experience. And we just before the pandemic happened, we got to go on another trip together. We went to Japan and Singapore for the first time, which was awesome. It was both of our first times going to the continent of Asia, which was just something that we both wanted to do at some point. By far my favorite trip that I've ever been on. And after hearing that my mom's going to be getting this hip replacement, it kind of made me think like shit, I'm happy I got to do this stuff with my mom. Hip replacements are like a major surgery, and you can expect a pretty long recovery period from that, I gather. I don't know enough about this. It's not my hip being replaced, but my mom's getting all the news and stuff for it. So yeah, it just made me reflect a little bit and think about the relationship that I've had with my mom. And for those that don't know me personally, my mom and I have a very close relationship, and I think it's in part due to the fact that I'm an only child and my mom's a single mom. So it was like a very deliberate choice of hers to have a kid. I am born via donor insemination. So my dad's a sperm donor. So I don't know who my dad is. I've done like 23andMe and shit just to figure out like what my genetics are. But yeah, because of that, like my mom and I were obviously like forced to have a good relationship. Or if we didn't, I probably would have turned out a lot different. So yeah, in hearing about my mom going through this in a year, because it's a wait list for a year for her surgery, which is great that it's free and all that, but covered by healthcare. But shit, that's a long time to be in pain and still waiting. But it made me very thankful for the trips that I've gotten to go on with my mom, for being part of like doing all the walking and stuff that she does. And my bad, I got distracted. There's like literally like ants like crawling on all my stuff right now, but deal with that after. Yeah, so this is the first time where I've kind of felt like I'm watching my mom grow old. And I've talked to her before filming this to ask if it's okay for me to talk about this stuff, and she said yes. On top of me being born via donor insemination, my mom also had me when she was 43. So already our age gap is larger than most people's relationships with their parents. But this is the first time in my life where it's kind of like okay, yeah, she is older than me. I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe it does. But I've always seen her as this active person. I've always seen her as this person who gets out there and does all these things. And for the first time, she's like having trouble with that, or running into trouble with that. And so it just got me thinking. It made me wonder, like, if you knew growing up, because like as a kid, you never think like you're going to have a hip replacement. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't cross your mind. You hear about it from other people. You might hear about it from grandparents or other people who are older in your life, but you don't really contemplate that for yourself or see that falling into your own experience. And so it made me think, like, if you were, let's say, like 10 years old, if you're 10 years old, you turn 10, happy birthday, kid, here's a list of all of the things that are going to happen to you in your life, all of the illnesses that are going to befall you. Would you live your life any different? Because seeing my mom do this, or going through this at the moment, seeing how she had been able to do these amazing things in her life, like the Camino, and be this very active person, and she's been such a positive influence on my life, it made me think, like, okay, like, would I live my own life any differently? So, like, shit, I decided I'll go on a hike and I'll film this episode this time, because I can, you know what I mean? I'm able to do that right now. Whereas my mom wouldn't be able to come on this hike. She's wanted to do some of the hikes in BC here, but she hasn't been able to do them. And for me, then, like, now I feel like a sense of responsibility to be able to do these kinds of things for her in a way. But yeah, thinking about that question, like, if I knew that when I turned 67, my mom's 67 now, when I turned 67, would I get a hip replacement? I'd try to do more things that were active. I'd try to travel more. I'd try backpacking or something like that. Like, things that it's like, oh, that sounds like a cool idea, but you never just do it. I feel like I would at that point. I don't know if I would right now, but like, it would make me think about that if you knew that you were going to run into that, because you're kind of banking on you having a normal, like a safe life, you know. Anyways, long story short to that is I love my mom, and so just hearing this news has made me reflect on our relationship. I'm really, really happy for what we've had, and I think young men, like, obviously whenever anybody's growing up, young man, young woman, doesn't matter, you are influenced a lot by your parents. I talked about that with Joe when he was on the podcast. Your parents are like the first example of what being a person is, and so you take a lot from them. And I've taken tons from my mom, because my mom was my only parent, and that was my only influence. So, like, I'm a pretty pure reflection of her. So yeah, I'm just very thankful for it. But young men definitely, I think, have a particularly strong relationship with their mothers. But yeah, I'm really thankful for it, and I think that relationship can tell you a lot about a man. At least I think so. If you're watching this and you ever want to know something about a man in your life, try and ask them about their relationship with their mom. That would probably tell you a lot about them, about who they are as a person. And so my mom and I, we have had this unique relationship because it's just been her and I my whole life. So now seeing, like, for the first time, as I said, a point where it's like I'm watching her grow older. Not to be morbid, and sorry, Mom, but, like, of course the thought has crossed my mind, like, eventually, like, I'm going to be living without my mom. You know, I mean, everybody does. Every kid does. It's a weird thing to think about sometimes. Like, your parents bring you into the world, and then you watch them leave it. My mom's not dying. My mom's getting a fucking hip replacement. Like, she's going to be fine. But still, it's just that whole getting older piece, you know? And because we have this bigger age gap, like, that's more likely to hit my life earlier than most people. You know, like, I'm going to be younger than another person might be when they lose their parent. I remember when my grandma died, I must have been, like, I don't know, like 9, 10. I could text my mom right now and figure it out. Hey, how you doing, Ma? I'm doing pretty well. I wanted to ask, how old was I when grandma passed away? 14. Okay, yeah, so 10 years back. Okay. No, I thought it was younger, but hey, it's all right. Well, thank you. I just needed to fact check myself, because I'm just thinking about grandma and stuff. Okay. Anyways. Cool. All right, well, I'll talk to you later. I'll let you know when I'm back in town. Okay, love you. Bye. So yeah, I was 14. 14 or 15 when my grandma passed away, and I guess then, yeah, that's just 10 years ago. So my mom was 57-ish. When I'm 57, my mom would be 100 years old, you know? So not a ton of people live to 100. We can hope that most do, but not a ton of people live to 100. So yeah, that might hit me earlier in my life. I was talking with a coworker just yesterday, actually, and it's like, when you start to see your parents getting older, that's when you start to sort of realize, like, you're an adult now. You're not a kid. So that's something that I've been thinking more and more about for a while now, is being an adult. I think I've talked about that in previous episodes, where it's like, once I moved out, like, that was a major step for me in like just getting that independence as an adult too. But anyways, I was talking with my coworker, and we were talking about how you start seeing yourself as more of an adult, and the idea of having to like take care of your parents becomes a real possibility. And then I started imagining it. It's almost like there's this door that you know is there your whole life, right? You're a kid, and as a kid you don't want to grow up, you don't want to get older, and there's this door it's like a one way, you know what I mean? Like once you open that door, it locks and you can't go back through it. And that's like the door to maturity, to adulthood. You can like start to creak it open a little bit and start sort of peeking your way through, but eventually you got to cross all the way. Eventually you got to take that full step, and you got to close the door of childhood behind you, and you start fully encompassing being an adult and having kids of your own, and then watching them go through the same process, right? So this is all stuff that's swirling in my head, and that's the whole point of this podcast, is it's all things that are on your mind, you know? So anyways, that trip that we got to have at the start of the year, start of 2020 actually, like the whole past year just blends in with one another, right? Like it doesn't all like make sense. Everything just seems to blend into one thing with the pandemic. At first, when we went on the trip, we went in February of 2020. We went to Singapore and Japan, and it was an amazing trip. And after that, like I remember us being in the airport on the way back from Japan, and when we're waiting in the airport to get on our plane, we see like a bunch of people lining up for the flight. Some people are wearing masks, and we're looking at it like, oh, that's so stupid. Like, we're not going to ever do that. Why are people wearing masks? It's not a big deal. At the time when we were in Japan, that cruise ship, I don't remember what the cruise ship was called. I'll put it on the screen here once I remember it, and I'll go Google it. But that cruise ship in Japan that had gotten like quarantined because they had a coronavirus outbreak on there, that was happening while we were in Japan. So we were watching the news on that, and I was like, oh, that's kind of like crazy, but it was like, oh, that's never going to come back home. You know, like we're going to fly back to Vancouver and it's not going to be a thing anymore. That was wrong. And so obviously over the last year we saw that the pandemic's a very real thing. But yeah, I just remember us just kind of like laughing at the fact that we saw these people lined up in the airport and everybody's wearing masks, and we were like, we're not going to be doing that. Now here we are, and everybody does. But yeah, that trip now means even more. After hearing that my mom's getting this hip replacement and getting older. That trip was awesome, by the way. Like, if anybody hasn't been to Japan, 10 out of 10, 100% recommend going. It's like well worth it. It's a lot of fun. But the overall like message that I'm starting to build for myself here is like, love your parent. You know, parents, when you have both, you only get the one set, you know, and it's obvious that your parents are influential to you and they play such a big part in your life. It's your only set of people raising you, and they teach all their values and impose their values onto you. But if you haven't already today, while you're watching this or while you're listening to this, text or call your parents, tell them you love them. Just let them know, because time is finite. And I don't know why I'm like getting into this place of like sounding so morbid about everything, because like nothing is changing. My mom's here still. She can walk. She has some pain when she walks, and that's all. But yeah, just appreciate all the time that you get, because now there's going to be this period of time where my mom and I, we can't necessarily go on a trip that involves a lot of walking around, at least after the surgery's done, right? I mean, by then, hopefully we can even travel, but then we won't necessarily be able to do like a big trip or a trip that's maybe too physical. Yeah. Anyways, as I'm doing this right now, there's another paraglider doing their shit. This is crazy. That's so sick. Like, I can't even imagine like doing a whole flip, but damn. Another thing that I just have been thinking about because of the relationship with my mom and reflecting on that is she's been really happy with me doing this whole podcast. So I'm definitely going to keep this up. I've already decided that I was going to keep doing it just because of the feedback that I've gotten, but now it's like another thing I want to just keep doing to keep my mom proud. You know, I feel like since moving out, like obviously once you move out, you lose some sense of connection with your parents because you're not seeing them every single day anymore. My mom and I would still see each other like at least once a week, but I mean, this is a good way for her to keep tabs on me too, you know, and like stay connected. Yeah, so I'm thankful for this in our relationship too. But yeah, I think the main point that I want to get across with this episode here is that really value and take sort of count of your relationship with your parents if you can, because you don't know when stuff's going to change. Then you can't do the same things that you did with your parents before, life ends up like, it's such a stupid cliche. Like, life goes by like super fast, and you can sort of lose track of things, and you don't really realize how fast things are progressing. And then next thing you know, you're turning 25, and then you gotta start acting and thinking for yourself and changing the way that you do things and being more of an adult and all that stuff. You start going through that door, right? You start going through that door, and you can't really take that step back. But overall, I'm very happy and very thankful for all the experiences that I've gotten to have thanks to my mom. I couldn't have asked for a better mom in my life, a better role model in my life. This month, like, I guess right now it's still March. I mean, March is Women's History Month, and so when we're talking about influential women, obviously you can look at like big figures and stuff, but I think a mom is a lot of men's most influential woman rather. Yeah, eventually you reach a point where now you're the one taking care of your mom, you're the one taking care of your parents, and it's a weird kind of dynamic to be walking into, but it's something that I think just about every child would face at some point, right? And it's just one of those things where you're moving on from just being a kid. Anyways, shout out to moms. I love you, Mom. And thank you for checking out all my episodes too, and being so encouraging with me doing this project and working on this. Yeah, love you. But anyways, thank you all for watching. I really appreciate you checking out this episode. This is going to be the end of season 1, like I said, but I'm really excited for what's coming with season 2. I'm going to try and do some more kind of like creative things, not necessarily all like podcasts either. But yeah, so we'll see what kind of content I come up with, and I'll take a couple weeks off just to be creative and change stuff with the set and things like that. So yeah, thank you, and I'll see you next time. Peace.